The Nigerian government has unveiled a new $23.2 billion national energy compact designed as part of the new Pan-African Mission 300 program. Speaking after the program presentation in Dar es Salaam on Tuesday, a number of energy sector investors, advisors and project developers spoke to what Nigeria has achieved in the spheres of mini-grid electricity and their outlook on the new 5-year initiative. Let's take some excerpts.
Power, access to electricity, which is a human right, which is the blood in the body to Nigerians, as well as to providing access to clean cooking technology. We have prepared the ground for this effort. Our own target is universal access by 2030. We set that target in our national development plans even before Mission 300, which of course we welcome wholeheartedly. And we have prepared the ground by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's courageous, bold, and very decisive macroeconomic reforms with the help of our multilateral development partners, which fundamentally has prepared the ground for our own successful foray into this important area of provision of energy, provision of electricity. Because the key is funding, the key is private sector funding. And if you're going to have that, you need a stable macroeconomic environment, as well as, of course, sensible policies, sensible regulatory environment. We've prepared ourselves for that. And what we are looking forward to now, particularly from the private sector in this room, is to buy into our story and come in and make the profits that are available for efficient provision of electricity to the Nigerians in towns, in cities, in rural areas, across the whole value chain.
The Nigeria energy sector is probably one of the most analyzed sectors on the continent. I've been analyzing this sector since 2005, when the Electricity Reform Act was passed. So we know a lot, and we know a lot about what to do. I mean, and I'm quite pleased that this discussion has been very honest. We've talked about, collection losses. We've talked about electricity theft, the liquidity issues in the sector. We've talked about metering gap. So we know the issues, and we just need to get moving and to solve them. And Dio said something quite interesting. He said the private sector needs to see a clear line of sight to profitability or returns. There are a few investors in this room that I know invested without seeing that clear line of sight. so I'm going to call on Mr. Kola Adesina. I see him nodding his head, right?
In terms of the number of slides I saw in 2002, 2005, this slide is fewer, so it's not as long as that, because I recall with vivid displeasure that we had a gas master plan that remained exactly what it is, a master plan. I think doing is what we need to really focus on. We know all the issues. I think it's time to roll our sleeves and get to work.
There have been 3 serious drug addictions that the country has suffered from. An addiction to price controls when it comes to fuel, price controls when it comes to foreign exchange, and price controls when it comes to the price of power. This administration has aggressively tackled 2 of those addictions: the subsidies on fuel and controls on foreign exchange. And they are attacking the 3rd. Thanks to the efforts of both the honorable ministers and the President's Special Advisor on Energy, the very dynamic Mrs. Oluferhen. So I was going to say a lot of plaudits about these 3 individuals, but it would bore you. What I think is more relevant, perhaps, is if I just tell the reporters and investors in this room to look out for something. So look out for a press release from Azura at some point this year saying that we are making a major investment in the distribution sector. That business as usual scenario, and I mean that because I've been in this sector for 15 years, is not going to happen. I can see from those who are leading this administration, their commitment, their determination, and my fellow shareholders are convinced that we need to be in that competitive game. And if you are not keeping an eye on Nigeria's distribution sector, which needs 8.5 billion, which sounds a lot. So it's not a pipe dream. Yeah, we've been able to raise 1.5 billion. Kola's been able to raise much larger sums. It can be done.
You know, distribution is the kind of unloved child. You know, when we did the privatization in 2013, I was working for an institution where we probably raised more money for investors than any other investment bank in the market at the time. And we were very optimistic. The plan was to list those distribution companies within 5 years, but it didn't happen. And there's a lot of water that's gone under the bridge. So let me call on somebody who knows distribution, Mrs. Folake Shoeton from Ikeja Disco. Please give us your reflections, because distribution is really the coal face. You're feeding the rest of the value chain. You guys are the ones collecting the money. You're suffering the energy theft, the bypassing. So what are your instincts? How do you respond to what government has presented?
All right. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not so sure what I need to say again, because I think that we definitely have skin in the game. And it's been 11 years now, or going on 11 years. And we've done a lot to try and ensure we can tackle some of the challenges. So I'm sitting down here very excited at the possibilities of getting investors to actually come into the market. And I'm a living testament. That is myself. You can see my chairman is here. We have another partner here, the oil and gas part. And I'm happy he's here because I want him to continue to support us internally. But the point is, I think I'm very excited. There's a lot of opportunity in Nigeria. And I really hope that private investors that are here are encouraged to definitely want to put some money in Nigeria. Thank you.
Agencies or regulators. And I would love to see added to that compact the creation of an academy in Abuja that brings Rural Electrification Agency officials, regulators, and other key aspects of scaling mini grids across Africa to Nigeria, to shadow those agencies, to learn from them directly, and then take those learnings back so that they don't have to repeat the same mistakes that Nigeria made, and they don't have to reinvent the wheel all over again. I can't stress that enough. I think Nigeria is such a shining example of what was done right. Sure, there are issues, right? But I think that so much has gone right in Nigeria, thanks to the World Bank, thanks to the African Development Bank as well. So anyway, thank you very much.
If we look at Nigeria and infrastructure development over the last 25 years, to my mind, the most significant transformation has come from taking Nigeria from 460,000 fixed lines to 216 million mobile connections. I think we all need to pay some attention to what it was that was done right around the telecom sector over a 20-year period to deliver that. And when I listen today to all of the conversations around tariffing, it really does bother me, because I think the early days of mobile telecoms in Nigeria clearly point to why we cannot continue to think about a tariff-controlled environment. And what we've done with Band-A is interesting, but it's not significant enough. Capping tariffs when you have no supply is just completely illogical. And what you have to do is to create the unique set of circumstances that will allow capital to come. We need to recognize the primacy of capital markets in this process. Every single country is significantly invested in its power infrastructure. It's the end of the Second World has done so financing its debt primarily in its local currency.